When father told me that a marriage proposal had come for me from Kaleem, I was furious. For quite some time, father had been mentioning Kaleem again and again at home, and I had a feeling something was going on, Basha. But I never imagined that father was dreaming about marrying me off to him. Kaleem was 10 years older than me. I had thought that maybe father was planning to start some kind of business with him. But when father said that Kaleem's mother wanted to formally bring a marriage proposal for me, I was utterly shocked. I created a huge scene. I cried, protested, and begged my mother to tell father clearly that I did not want to get married. I wanted to become a doctor. I had so many dreams. I wanted to do a lot for the poor, and besides, I was one of the brightest students in my college. Even my teachers often said that I had a brilliant future ahead of me, that I was intelligent and capable of achieving great things. How then could my parents decide on marriage without even considering all this? Mother simply said, "In this house, only your father's word matters, and he has already promised Kaleem's mother that she can come over this evening with the proposal. It's better if you prepare yourself and say yes to the marriage. Otherwise, your father's wrath will fall upon us all, and the entire atmosphere of the house will turn sour. As for your studies," she continued, "Kaleem is an educated and sensible man. If you ask him, he will surely help you continue your education. In fact, you will still be able to become a doctor after marriage. And even if you do become a doctor, you'll have to get married someday, right? So why not get married first and then complete your education?" Mother scolded me harshly, but also tried to explain lovingly. In the end, I was forced to surrender in front of her. When evening came and Kaleem's mother arrived, I had no choice but to dress up and sit before her. She couldn't stop showering me with praises, utterly smitten, because I was indeed very beautiful and delicate. Kaleem, meanwhile, was already over 30 years old, while I was barely 17. But none of this seemed to matter to my parents. Neither the age gap nor my personal wishes seemed important to them. All that mattered to my father was that Kaleem was wealthy, had his own house, and no responsibilities except his mother. According to him, I would live like a queen in that house. Even if I didn't study further, I would never lack anything. Faced with all this, I had no choice but to bow my head in silence. Kaleem's mother even placed several thousand rupee notes in my hand as a token, feeding me sweets and talking excitedly about fixing the wedding date. When she mentioned that the wedding would take place within 2 months, the ground slipped from beneath my feet. Neither my mother nor father objected. Instead, they agreed immediately, saying, "We too want our daughter's wedding to happen soon." And just like that, my wedding was fixed for 2 months later. After Kaleem's mother left, I broke down crying miserably. "Mother, at least let me finish my intermediate exams," I pleaded. "I have worked so hard to get into medical studies. If I could just complete my intermediate, I could easily secure admission into medical college later. But you've finalized my marriage in just 2 months. How will I even appear for my exams after the wedding?" I kept crying and crying while mother sat across from me, staring coldly. "When you are getting such a good and wealthy husband, why are you obsessed with studying?" she snapped. "There will be servants in that house. Didn't you see the huge car Kaleem's mother arrived in? But you simply refuse to understand anything." I cried and said, "Mother, all my friends are still studying. None of their families are even talking about marriage yet, and you people have already finalized mine. How could I possibly agree to this marriage?" Mother, in a fit of rage, stood up and threatened me. "If you refuse, I will take my own life. You are my only daughter, and I want to see you married with full celebration and honor. Kaleem is a well-known and trustworthy young man. He has been working alongside your father in business for a long time. Your father always speaks highly of him." Mother continued, "I am an ailing woman. Today I am here, tomorrow I may be gone to meet my lord. After that, you will rule your new home. So accept this with happiness." Mother explained all this again, and the next day she didn't even allow me to go to college. When I didn't show up for 2 days, my friends themselves came to visit me. They asked, "Shifa, what's going on? Why aren't you coming to college?" Tears welled up in my eyes as I told them, "My marriage has been arranged." They were shocked. "How can you be getting married at such a young age?" But my mother overheard and immediately scolded them. "Stop bothering her." She has received a very good, wealthy proposal, and we don't want to waste any more time thinking. After getting scolded by my mother, my friends fell silent. However, as they were leaving, my close friend Zunara whispered to me, "This isn't right. If I had known your marriage would be arranged so quickly, I would have sent my family with a proposal for you myself." I stared at Zunara in surprise. She bit her lip nervously and confessed, "Actually, my brother Ramiz likes you. He had already told our family about his feelings. But I didn't know your parents would rush your marriage. Otherwise, I would have made sure he sent a proposal." Hearing her words, I froze. I had never even seen her brother properly, nor did I know anything about him. What love was she talking about? Seeing the shock on my face, Zunara gently held my hand and explained, "My brother used to come pick me up from college sometimes. It was during those times that he noticed you and quietly admired you from afar. He never dared speak to you out of respect, but he told me that when the time was right, he would send a proposal." Zunara's eyes filled with tears. Meanwhile, I was still struggling to process everything. I had no idea her brother had any such feelings for me. While we were still talking, my mother overheard bits of our conversation. She rushed over, grabbed Zunara by the hand, and pulled her up harshly. "Girl, go home right now. Have you no shame sitting here and singing tales of your brother's love to my daughter? She's about to get married and you're filling her head with nonsense." Mother publicly humiliated Zunara and kicked her out of the house. Then she turned to me with suspicion burning in her eyes. "You didn't do anything wrong, did you? Just looking at your friends gives me a bad feeling. Imagine, they're standing here, shamelessly talking about their brother's love for you." Hearing this, I immediately covered my ears and cried out, "Mother, what are you thinking? I don't even know her brother. I've never spoken to him or had anything to do with him. You're misunderstanding everything." But inside, my heart was pounding violently with fear. There was no telling what my mother might do. What if she told father? Father already had issues with me studying and going to college. If he heard even a whisper of something like this, he would surely use it as another excuse to pull me out of college permanently. Even though I was their only daughter, in matters like these, both mother and father were very strict. That's why I'd always kept my distance, never speaking to any non-mahram, never giving anyone a reason to gossip. Where did those 2 months even go? I hardly realized how quickly time passed. My friends never came again to meet me. At home, the preparations for the wedding began in full swing, and under the blessings and prayers of my parents, I left my home, shedding silent tears, and set off with Kaleem toward his house. I kept crying all the way. Leaving my home was painful enough, but what scared me even more was the uncertainty. What kind of man would Kaleem turn out to be? I only knew his name. I hardly knew anything about him. I was sitting as a bride in the bridal room when Kaleem entered. He handed me a very expensive gift and spoke a few traditional lines, was the usual rehearsed words that are said on such nights. There was nothing particularly special about Kaleem's manner. He seemed tired and disinterested. After spending a little while with me, he turned to his side and fell asleep. I began wondering if Kaleem was unhappy about this marriage. Or maybe he was just exhausted. I kept trying to comfort myself. Maybe he was just tired from the wedding events. Lost in these thoughts, I too eventually drifted into sleep. When I opened my eyes the next morning, Kaleem was no longer in the room. Suddenly, a servant knocked and entered. I got startled and quickly grabbed the nearby dupatta to cover myself. The servant stood with his eyes respectfully lowered and said, "Madame, everyone has already had breakfast. The elder lady has eaten, and Sir has also finished breakfast and left for the office. Should I bring your breakfast now?" He spoke so politely, but I was left shocked. I glanced at the clock, but it was already 10 a.m. "Has Kaleem really gone to the office?" I asked in disbelief, because I had always heard that newlyweds usually spent the first few days together. But my husband had already left for work, Stamrai, on the very first morning after our wedding. The memory of his cold, detached attitude last night came rushing back to me, and tears welled up in my eyes. I told the servant, "I'm not hungry," and sat back down. Then he said, Madam, I give very good massages. If you're feeling tired, I can do it for you. Hearing this, I was stunned. I glared at him angrily and snapped, Are you out of your mind? Get out of here! Startled by my anger, he quickly fled the room. I was left feeling extremely disturbed. How could a mere servant even suggest something like that? But later that evening, I understood why. When I finally stepped out of my room and went to my mother-in-law's room, there I saw the same servant massaging her feet and chatting casually with her. As soon as he saw me, he stood up respectfully and left the room. My mother-in-law smiled and said, This servant has magic in his hands. Even though it's only been a month since he joined, he has won my trust with his service. He gives so much relief to my tired legs. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask him. He's a very good, well-mannered boy. After that, she got busy chatting with me, and I didn't think much about it. But that night, as I sat alone in my room, the clock struck midnight, and my husband had still not returned home. I kept waiting, watching the clock. When it was almost 1 a.m., there was a knock at my door. It was the same servant again. He said, Madam, you haven't eaten dinner yet. Should I set it up for you? His unnecessary concern irritated me deeply. I snapped at him. Are you here to watch over me now? He was still angry with me, and soon after he went back to work again. Life had fallen into a strange pattern. I would spend my entire day waiting for my husband, and most nights I would fall asleep before he even returned. In the mornings, his cold, distant attitude would remind me that he was still upset with me. In that large, lonely mansion, I had no real work to do. The only person who would come into my room was that servant. He would talk to me, massage my feet, and lighten my mood. Slowly, I became quite friendly with him. And just like that, a week passed. One night, as usual, the same servant sat at my feet, massaging them. Soon, I drifted off to sleep without even realizing it. When I woke up the next morning, I was horrified to find strange, unfamiliar marks all over my body. Standing before the mirror, trembling, I stared at them in disbelief. My husband was not in the room. While I was still standing there in a panic, the door suddenly creaked open. Kaleem entered. Hurriedly, I pulled my dupatta tightly around me, trying to hide the marks on my neck, but he seemed to notice my nervousness immediately. Without a word, he stormed toward me and yanked the dupatta away. The moment his eyes landed on the marks, his face darkened with rage. You shameless woman, he shouted. Whom did you bring into my house behind my back? Hearing his words, a chill ran down my spine. Tears welled up in my eyes as I shook my head and cried, I didn't call anyone. I don't know how this happened. I have been in the room the whole time. I just woke up. But he didn't believe a word I said. Without any warning, he slapped me hard across the face. Then, shouting at the top of his lungs, he gathered the servants and his mother into the room. In front of everyone, he humiliated me. He branded me as a characterless woman, while I had done absolutely nothing wrong. Tears streamed down my face. My mother-in-law tried desperately to protect me, but Kaleem was consumed by rage and madness. Right there, standing in front of everyone, he divorced me. And just like that, I was sent back to my parents' home. When I arrived, I was in a broken, miserable state. I felt utterly humiliated in front of my mother and father. Even my father doubted me. He silently believed that maybe I had done something wrong. Only my mother stood firmly by my side. She tried to talk to Kaleem, tried to make him see sense. But there was no hope now. He had already divorced me. I completed my waiting period, Ida, in silence. 6 long, bitter months passed. I locked myself away in my room, cutting off from everyone, Asa. I met no one. I spoke to no one. My friends tried visiting me. Even Zunaira came by. But I refused to meet any of them. Then after 6 months had passed, a proposal arrived for me from Zunaira's brother. My parents, thinking of my future, quickly accepted it. After all, who would marry a divorced girl? A girl who now carried the stain of alleged immorality. Without any festivities, my parents married me off to Zunaira's brother in a simple ceremony. On the night of the wedding, I sat lifelessly on the bed. No hopes, no dreams, no emotions left inside me. I waited silently for my new husband. Soon the door opened and a man entered. I shrank back into myself. But when he lifted my veil, a scream escaped from my throat. Because standing before me was not some stranger. It was the same servant from my first home, the same servant who used to massage my feet, who had become so close to me, and who, deep inside, I feared was responsible for my entire downfall. I immediately grabbed him by the collar and demanded, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" He lowered his head and said softly, "Please forgive me. I am Zunaira's brother. I have loved you for a long time. When your family suddenly arranged your marriage, it felt like my whole world collapsed. I didn't want to lose you, no matter what." He paused, then continued with a trembling voice. "When I found out you were getting married to Kaleem Shah, I completely opposed the idea. Kaleem was a corrupt man, involved with many women. He was marrying you only for the sake of having someone to care for his sick, elderly mother. He never truly wanted a wife. He needed a caretaker. I wanted to inform your parents. Through a friend, I tried to send them the truth, but they refused to believe it. Blinded by Kaleem's wealth, they ignored every warning. Seeing the pain on my face, he pressed on. When I realized I couldn't stop the wedding, I secretly took a job in Kaleem's house as a servant before you even arrived. I gained the trust of your husband and mother-in-law. My plan was simple. If anyone ever tried to hurt you, I would be there to protect you. But I had no idea that Kaleem would hurt you not physically, but emotionally. He deliberately ignored you. He would come home late every night just to assert his dominance, forcing you to wait for him in vain. When you started falling asleep, it bruised his pride. He was a sick man, trapped in his own twisted ideas of masculinity. Tears welled up in his eyes as he confessed. That final night, I gave you sleeping medicine mixed with another drug, one that would cause an allergic reaction, leaving bruises on your body. When Kaleem saw those marks, he assumed the worst and divorced you. I know that hearing all of this must hurt you terribly, and you have every right to be angry with me. But please remember, everything I did it because I loved you. I wanted to save you." He folded his hands in front of me, pleading. "I want to give you all the happiness you deserve. I know you have dreams of studying further. I will help you enroll in college again. I'll support you in becoming a doctor. I'll fulfill every dream in your heart." I stared at him in shock and anger, struggling to process everything he had said. And then, slowly, I reached out and held his joined hands. Whatever he had done it out of love for me. And deep down, I knew Kaleem was not a good man. I had realized that the very first day after marriage. And now, hearing about his character from others only confirmed my instincts. Maybe everything that happened was for the best. Today, I am living a good life with my husband, a life filled with respect, love, and dignity. We don't just love each other. We honor and cherish our bond deeply. And that, to me, is the most important thing in life. What do you think? Was my husband right in what he did, or was it wrong? Share your thoughts in the comments below.